Alright everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the application of order of operations. Now, we'll just jump right into it. So, the easiest way I found to remember your order of operations, I guess we'll start with what they are really. So the order of operations is just the order in which you work through an equation, like such as this one down here, like where do you even begin? So that's what these rules are for. It's for standardizing the whole math system across the world so everybody knows exactly where to begin when dealing with any math problem. So easiest way to remember it is just the classic Pemdas, or some people like to say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And all this really stands for is the P is for parentheses or any other kind of bracket, such as this larger bracket here, and then you got parentheses. So if, you work through your parentheses first, and then after parentheses you move on to exponents, and then after exponents you'll do your multiplication and division, and then finally you do addition and subtraction. So again, that's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now let's just jump into a couple examples here. So the first one, like we saw, Pemdas up here. So we know that this will start with the parentheses, so then this is equal to 4 times 12, and then multiply in, this is equal to 48. Final answer. It's pretty easy, you just got to memorize and remember this little saying, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and just work your way through it slowly. Now here we have parentheses and an exponent, but we know we do parentheses first, so then this equals 3 times 6 squared, so then we know we do parentheses, then our exponents, and then our multiplication, so then this is equal to 3 times 36, which is equal to 108. Alright, and we'll move on to something a little more complicated with brackets and parentheses. So here, so you start with your brackets, but then inside your brackets you have these parentheses and division. But we do our parentheses first before our division, so this will turn into 2 times the quantity 12 over 4, and then you do your brackets first, so then this equals 2 times 3, which equals 6. So really all these rules do is kind of break this down into, it breaks the larger equation down into its own unique parts, and you can work through it that way. See, like here, you got this whole thing, but if you look at it, 9 plus 3, and then you got, your 12 divided by 4, and then you bring the 2 in, and then you end up with 6. So it's just a simpler way of looking at the whole larger equation. We'll do some algebraic expressions that involve these orders of operations. So like we discussed in the last video, algebraic expression is just an expression with a variable in it, and all these 3 questions will be evaluated at y equals 8. So all that means is we plug in the 8 for the y, so we get 8 squared minus 3, which is equal to 64 minus 3, because we do our exponentials, or exponents, before we do our subtraction. So that final answer is 61. Moving on to number 9 here. So this is a pretty simple one. Again, you just plug in 8 for y, so 12 minus 8 minus 1. And that you may be asking yourself, like, okay, which subtraction do I start with first? Because we have 2 subtractions, and the rule doesn't really account for that. But subtraction works out in a way where you can just subtract straight through. And it doesn't matter, like if you do 12 minus 8, So we'll do two ways. So 12 minus 8 is 4 minus 1, which is equal to 3. Or the other way you can do it is 8 minus 1. So it'd be 12 minus 9, because it's negative 8 minus a negative 1, giving you 12 minus 9, which then will equal 3. So both scenarios you get 3. I find it easier just to work left from right. So you have your 12 minus 8 is 4 minus 1 is 3. It's a little more intuitive than subtracting from a negative. It can get a little confusing. We'll move on to number 10 here. So if you see this equation, the way it's written, you could almost write it as if it's like, so we'll just substitute in. So 10 times 8 plus 1 divided by 8 plus 1. And now you could really write this as this, the two quantities divided by each other, and that kind of simplifies the Pemdas for you. So you're going to want to work out the top before you divide it by the bottom. So 10 times 8, we know, is 80 plus 1 is over 8 plus 1. So now we'll do our addition. So you get 81 over 9, which we know is equal to 9. Again, nothing too complicated, but it's just remembering those steps and working your way through it. And we'll do 3 more before we finish up this video. And we'll just jump right into it. So again, we're going to do our parentheses first. So this is 1/6 times 6 plus 8, which is 14, minus 2 squared. So we took care of our parentheses. Now we're going to do our exponents. So we'll make this 14 over 6 to simplify it down, minus 2 squared, which is 4. And I'm just going to leave this answer the way it is. Or actually, no, we'll work through the fraction. So then this is equal to 14 over 6 minus, you get that common denominator, 24 over 6. So this final answer is going to be negative 10 over 6, which is equal to negative 5/3. Yeah. And the way you got that common denominator down there is just multiply top and bottom by 6. So you can subtract straight across. All right, and now moving on to number 18 here. So we got our bigger brackets, so then we look, ignore that 8, we look inside, and then we got these smaller brackets here, so we're going to start with that. So we got 8 times the quantity, 20, minus, in parentheses, work this out, it's going to be 4 squared, end bracket, which is then going to equal 8 times the quantity of 20 minus 16, which we know is going to be equal to 8 times the quantity, well, not quantity, just 4, which is equal to 32, your final answer. All right, we'll work through this last one here. This one, written a little tricky, but it's nothing too crazy. So we got no parentheses. We do have an exponent, so we'll work that out first. So 4 to the power of 3, it's going to be 64, divided by 8, plus 8. Now, you might want to be saying to yourself, okay, is this 64 divided by 8 plus 8? But that Pemdas shows us that we're going to multiply before we add. So you can think about this as 64 divided by 8 and kind of in parentheses if it helps you kind of work through this problem a little easier. So we know that 64 divided by 8 is going to be equal to 8. So plus 8, then we get to do our addition. So the final answer is 16. All right, and that does it for the order of operations. Leave any questions you have down in the comments below. And if this video helped you out, helped you to better understand the application of the order of operations, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helped the channel out. And, just remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Have a good day.